Oh no, now that I think about it, this could definitely be an AI song. Yup, it is. Oh my god. I'm really starting to know what AI music is now. Like I'm starting to be like all I have to do is hear it. You don't even need to tell me it's AI anymore. I'm like, yeah, this is not a band. Usually So I started off the show talking about how I found a reason for AI. And I was like, "Oh, AI is so stupid. AI is so dumb." And then I was like, "Wait a minute. I could make like a cool little like intro song with AI, like a song that I could never make myself. Like I could never make a old fucking 1930s sounding song. It's just like I don't have the tools or recording equipment or none of that. But you can use AI to make like your own 1930s fucking Billie Holiday song with your own lyrics is actually really fucking cool if depending on what you're using it for. So if you're using it for something like, "Oh, this is for the intro for my podcast," or "This is for my show I created." It's actually kind of cool. But like if you're using it to be like, "Hey, check out my song I made. I wrote the lyrics." Like I can't tell you how many people have sent their music into my show and then they tell me, "Oh, it's an AI song, but I made the lyrics." And I'm like, "What do you want me to do?" Like, I don't know what to say. Like I know you're proud of this cuz you wrote like lyrics. I get it. But this is not really a creation, you know? But if you can take some AI and make a cool little intro song, I don't know, it's actually kind of cool.
It's time, baby, we're live from Arizona.
He said Arizona.
I love delusions, I love delusions, I love the losing and ego bruising.
I'm honestly, bro, I don't know. I kept using a bunch of different programs because all the programs would only give you like a few songs to do. So like you'll like so what I did is I typed in AI generated songs free and I just started clicking on all the top links, and then if I liked the app, then I would keep using it, and if I didn't, I would just go to another link. And so like a couple of those apps suck because they write the lyrics for you. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I don't want you to write the lyrics for me. So you have to go to like certain apps and they'll say advanced mode or lyric mode. And then you could write the lyrics and then under it you could type how you want the song to sound. So I typed in old Mexican sounding song. And then I typed in my lyrics and then it created the old Mexican sounding song with my lyrics. Gangsta.
Yo!
But I would never share this like, "Hey, check out this song I made with my lyrics." It's just it's a cool little podcast thing, you know? So you got to remember the reasons for these tools. It's like a gun. A gun can be a tool for destruction, or it can just be something that you have for fun and then you go and shoot targets with and then defend your house with. You know, it doesn't have to be hell on earth. You don't know. All right, it's DL Cordero. Arizona.
Yeah, telling me lit. Watch it go up in this bitch. I'm had to do this shit. Got some memories, but I say fuck.
What about you? What about any of you? I sent you an AI interview. What? An AI interview?
Down of Florida, you can see we good. I'm a dog. She put it down like she.
Bro, all my interviews are AI.
7 really.
Got multiple tangos! Multiple hostiles! Yeah, I got us a sniper rifle. What the fuck? Arizona is how I like to hear the word.
Time, baby, we're live from Arizona.
For now on, it's Arizona. Fucking straight idiot, dumb man. I'm pathetic. It's
All right,
Dustin.
so you've sent this over, and Wow, color me intrigued. 2 rappers, right?
Uh-huh.
Snappa Slappa, Super Koopa. And get this, they're about to drop like this super group project, Toka and Razor. It's all, I mean, you say it's hush hush.
Yeah, very under wraps, but juicy though from what we've.
The snippets are wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dig in.
Let's do it. So these guys aren't like your typical mainstream top 40,
What?
you know. We're talking about artists bubbling up from the depths of BandLab.
BandLab. Okay, for those of us that I'm going to put myself in this category who
Oh, it's an
aren't
AI.
spending every waking
It's an AI
hour in new
interview.
music, what is BandLab? Give us the lowdown.
Think of it as like a more hands-on SoundCloud.
Okay.
It's this really cool digital
No, see you don't want to talk like this. See, if you talk like this, see, this is AI talk. Like nothing I ever say will sound like anything they're saying. Like imagine me describing to you guys what fucking BandLab or like imagine me actually just sitting. Well, see what it is. So what it is. Well, basically it's like an AI can never do what I just did right there. Imagine an AI going it would never think to do it.
playground for musicians, really, where they can record, produce, collaborate, the whole night.
This sounds like you Google what BandLab is. Hey Google, what is BandLab?
We're talking about artists bubbling up from the depths of.
Bitch, I said what a BandLab. That actually does make me cringe though. It really does. It's like ugh. I don't even want to Makes me feel sick in the head. Very uncanning. Uncanning is how I say it. You ain't gotta listen to it, so I figured I'd give you what it can do. It makes me sick. It really. It's weird.
All right, so you say darker, right? I'm looking at these lyrics you pulled out. Snappa Slappa has this one line, and tell me if you can decipher this Billy Idol after a suspense. I mean, what does that mean? It's hilarious, but also kind of creepy, no?
Exactly. And that's what makes them so interesting. It's that element of surprise. And it's not just him. Super Koopa throws in this reference to Dimension X, some sci-fi influence there for sure.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
It's like this blend of the
I truly believe that this is what this is how people like see me reviewing their music, because like a lot of people will send me songs and they'll be like, can you react to my music? Or they'll say, can you review my music? And then when the song's done, I truly believe they want me to be like, well, I love how you kind of stole from Billy Idol and Billie Eilish and Billy King and Billy Joel and Billy Joe. So I love how you got into all the Billies. And I want to jump back to this reference where you said something about reach-arounds. Now, see, that's very interesting. See, reach-arounds are like it's a gay term for well, you know what a reach-around is. But I wanted to jump back to that. You ever see that in your life? Well, yeah, actually, I had seen a reach-around. And see, Snappa Slappa, he puts these reaches together, and they're usually around another thing. And so he reaches around audastically, audiodistically. Audio, what's the word for audio? What's the audio word for what I'm trying to say? I don't know. So anyways, Snappa Slappa. Yeah, Snappa Slappa, one of the most, he's a genius, a god, a lord. A king, if you will.
Processing everything going on, the world's a mess, social unrest, economies all over the place. We're bombarded with information 24/7.
You guys just start naming
Maybe
your
it's
own
all just
Billies. You guys are like, there's more Billies out there. You can't just name 4.
All right, so horrorcore thing, doesn't it? Because horrorcore is, well, it's horror.
And that's where things get really, really interesting. They're playing with those tropes,
Oh, it kind of sounds like NPR or something, like an NPR interview. He's playing with his tropes, kind of molding them, sculpting them, kind of like Play-Doh or Play-Doh, however you want to say it. I grew up saying Play-Doh. You know, he really plays with the notes. They're flavorful. They have action. They have accents. You know, I'm really interested, and that's what makes it very interesting to me, is it's very aerodidactyl, and it's very anonymous. You know, there's a lot of people like Artemis who think it's anonymous. You know, and they're conscious of the anonymous artifacts by Artemis. And it's very aerodidactyl. You know.
Subverting them. It's not just about shock value. It's deeper. Like they're using that darkness to get at.
You know. That's an AI podcast called Notebook. My bad. Oh, should we do our own AI podcast? AI podcast. Let's do our own AI podcast live on air while we listen to AI music live on air. You know.
Time, baby, we're live from Arizona. I love delusions, and I love the losing and ego bruising. Your host is Daniel Thomas. You know he is a bit rotten.
You know, that's what an AI would say. You know. So here we go. I used Notebook thanks to Turtle because I couldn't find a fucking site who did it, and they created a podcast about my show. So let's see how it goes.
Okay, welcome everyone to the deep dive. We're digging into a new source today, and it gives us a pretty focused look at something called Delusions, the podcast about bad music. So our goal here, just working with the text we have, is to really unpack what it tells us about this show, you know, its core idea and how it's described. And right away, that title jumps out, yeah. Delusions, the podcast about bad music.
It really does. Provocative.
Definitely. And the source gets specific, saying it's about the music that beginners make.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about why choose that title, that topic. It's quite bold. It sort of sets up a dynamic, doesn't it? Between the host, the music, maybe the audience too.
Oh, absolutely. Framing it around terrible beginner music, well, that's an immediate, almost controversial starting point.
Yep.
It signals, you know, a certain kind of critique is probably central to the show, and that ties right into the feedback the source provides about the host. Because critiquing beginner stuff, that can be, well, tricky.
It really can be. And the source is very pointed here about the host's style. It says they're described as offensive and sometimes mean.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty blunt feedback.
It is. For a show critiquing beginners, describing the host like that, well, it says a lot about the likely vibe or maybe the intended edge of the podcast.
Exactly. That phrase, offensive and sometimes mean, it makes you wonder about who the show is for.
Right.
Is the host deliberately trying to be edgy? Like, do they figure their listeners want that sharp, maybe even harsh take?
Or is it just off-putting?
Or maybe it is off-putting, especially given the subject matter, you know, beginner efforts. It really highlights a core tension based on the source between the show's idea and how it apparently comes across.
And there's another piece of feedback, a very practical one, moving from personality to, like, how the show is structured.
Okay.
The source states the host talks too much without playing the fear that his guests sent in. Now, for a podcast about music, where it even mentions guest submissions, this specific point, the balance between talking about it versus, you know, actually hearing it, that feels pretty important.
That feels crucial, yeah. If the topic is music, even quote-unquote terrible music, you'd probably expect to hear some examples. So this critique suggests, well, maybe a mismatch. What the host is doing lots of talking versus what maybe the listeners, especially those submitting stuff, are hoping for.
This is to hear the music.
Presumably, yeah. Hear the music being discussed. It points to a fundamental issue with the show's delivery, at least according to this description.
Bro, I broke the AI. The AI is like, wait, he's really mean to beginners? Well, okay, beginners usually suck, right? I mean, they're beginners, so so they're all, why would you critique and be mean to a beginner? And then they're like, oh, so he takes submissions, but he doesn't play them. But that's what the whole fucking show is about. I broke this AI. They don't know what to do with me.
The execution isn't quite lining up with the premise for this particular listener.
Okay, so let's pull together the main threads from this source then. We've got the basic concept,
I like how now they're trashing me. So it went from me trashing people to now I've made an AI that is now trashing me. How are you going to trash me like that?
According to this description, the execution isn't quite lining up with the premise for this particular listener.
Okay, so let's pull together the main threads from this source then. We've got the basic concept, Delusions, a podcast
Delusions.
focused on terrible beginner
Delusions.
music.
Right.
And then these two pretty sharp criticisms of the host. Their tone, offensive and sometimes mean, and the content balance, that they talk too much without playing the submitted music.
And what's interesting, based only on what we have here,
That's
is how
interesting.
this short description paints this picture of a show, right? It has this deliberately provocative idea, but the feedback immediately zeroes in on the host's potentially difficult style and this feeling that it's not delivering the core content, the music itself, in the way people might expect.
I could see why Snapper Slapper was like interested in this, because when you hear an AI talk about something you do, it is really weird. I wouldn't say like useful, it's just weird, you know? Like it's just
Shows how those things can be linked, the style and the substance.
Exactly. It really shows how even a brief description can kind of flag the key features and potential problems of a media product. Which brings us to a final thought for you, sticking strictly to this source material. Considering that specific feedback, the host talks too much without playing the music, what does that observation alone make you wonder about why someone would listen to a podcast about terrible beginner music in the first place? What might they actually be hoping to get out of it if hearing the music itself seems to be a point of frustration? What's the real draw?
yeah, what's the real draw of listening to terrible music? You know, I think that's a very interesting point. Why would you want to sit there? Why would you want to spend your Tuesday afternoon, your Monday afternoon, whatever day it is, and listen to something like, you know, like this?
Yeah. Nah. You wanna threaten me? Best to be. But I said that to be, any PP can fuck with me. So if I fuck you up, I'ma fuck you up. Ain't more fucking choices, that's what's up. If you have a choice, you got the voice. This is the choice where I go the Troy, boy. But I ain't know that way. Pipe dreams in my highway, but I ain't fly, B. If I am fly high, B, lie, B, but with shaman.
What I really should do is recreate this man's lyrics, put them into the AI notebook, and see what the AI notebook thinks of a complete moron. Mental man.
To fuck with me. Can't even fuck with me, nah. Suck with me, nah. Fuck with the ooh. Dot on your head wall. Dot on your head wall. Warriors, come out and play. One. Get out of my way. Fuck it, I'll grab my balls. See me? I grab my hallway. Hallway so slow the bed.
You know, why would you want to listen to this? The AI says. What gets someone to want to join my show?
Too much without playing the music? What does that observation alone make you wonder about why someone would listen to a podcast about terrible beginner music in the first place? What might they actually be hoping to get out of it if hearing the music itself seems to be a point of frustration? What's the real draw?
Yo, it's Nasper.
I know the sky is the limited. That's why I'm pushing every day, every night. I know the sky is the limited.
It's Nasper.
That's why I'm pushing every day, every night.
Push it.
I won't
Sky
give up. I won't give up, no, I won't give up. I won't give up, yeah, I won't give up. I won't give up, no, I won't give up. I won't give up, yeah. I know the sky is the limited.
Yo, why
That's
would
why
you
I'm
want to
pushing
hit it?
every day, every night.
Why would you wanna hear this shit?
That's why I'm pushing every
So now the presentation goes on. I know this guy is a remix. It's also the reason why I'm pushing it every day and night. Over.
Oh shit, my bad. I forgot to play your guys' music. Damn, I guess that fake podcast is, it was right. Podbean. Whoops. I shouldn't have used this email. Hey Turtle, go ahead and send another song in.
Okay, let's get into this. We're doing a
Here we go.
deep dive based on just one source today.
Yay.
It's titled Sidewalk Interviews and Studio Struggles. And, well, it describes the show with a pretty unusual setup.
Yeah. Unusual is one word for it. The source is very direct about the premise.
How so?
Well, it talks about this host, right? And he interviews women who are living on the streets. The source actually uses some pretty raw language.
Like what?
It specifically describes them as crackhead women. That's the phrase used in the source itself to characterize the guests.
Wow, okay. So very blunt description.
Exactly. And right away, the source points out a specific challenge the host faces, but maybe not the one you'd immediately think of.
Not the emotional difficult.
Well, maybe that too, but the source highlights something more physical. It says the guests sometimes, quote, stink up his entire studio.
Really? It focuses on that.
Yeah, and it explicitly says this makes his job hard. That's the word used. It's interesting that this sort of practical sensory detail is called out.
Huh. So the picture the source paints is you have this host. He's interacting with people in really vulnerable situations.
Extremely vulnerable.
And one of the main difficulties presented by the source is the smell in his studio.
Precisely. And, the source then connects this whole situation, these difficult conditions, to how the host actually funds the show.
Okay, how does that work, according to this source?
This is where it gets really specific. The source states that the host essentially begs for money on his podcast. That's the term used. Begs.
Okay. And how does he frame that appeal?
Well, according to the source, it's incredibly direct. It says he actually points to his guests, these women he's interviewing,
Right.
and asks the audience, and this is a quote from the source, "Do you want me to end up like this?"
Wow. So the source is saying he uses the condition of his guests, their vulnerability, as the direct reason people should give him money.
That's exactly how the source portrays it. It's presented as a very explicit fundraising tactic, essentially saying, support me so I don't become like them.
So the struggle, the hard part, including the studio smell,
All of it.
becomes the justification for the financial ask based on what this source tells us.
Correct. The source draws a very clear line between the challenging nature of the work, as it describes it, and the need for donations.
And there's another piece to this, isn't there? The source mentions something else the host does.
Oh, right. It adds another layer. It mentions he also does live performances, described as P. Diddy-like shows.
P. Diddy-like shows. So quite a contrast there.
A huge contrast, seemingly. So you've got these, intense street interviews, the studio issues, the source mentions, this very direct fundraising approach.
Tied directly to the guest's situation.
And then also these, high-energy P. Diddy-like shows, all presented in this one source.
Quite a mix of elements described here. The source really puts together a complex picture.
It really does. You have the documentation of hardship and vulnerability on one hand.
Presented as a reason for the host's own struggle and need for funds.
And then these other very different kinds of performances mentioned on the other. It's quite the juxtaposition presented by the source.
So just thinking about what this single source lays out, it really makes you pause, doesn't it?
Definitely. It raises questions.
What does it really mean, based only on what this source tells us, when the difficulties of the host's job difficulties explicitly linked to the state of the vulnerable people he features are used so directly as the leverage for getting financial support?
That's the core question the source leaves you with, I think. That connection between the guest's described hardship, the host's stated difficulty, and the plea for money. It's certainly something to think about.
Well, there you have it. My next show. That is what my next show will be, because I will be stepping outside of music. Fortunately, after my new album drops, I will quit music and do an interview only show. So no more delusions, no more fucking listening to music. It's just gonna be me live on the Garza Strip, just interviewing homeless crack meth women and trying to tell you guys to give me money or I'll end up like them. Get it?
Living in the town, got you west. I've been living in the town.